Fellas, today we're going to be reviewing RuneScape Dragonwilds. Now, you know me, guys. I have a long history of RuneScape, and I think many of you probably have as well. Most of us grew up playing RuneScape. Our childhood was defined by it. From the days of getting lured into the wild, the folks scamming you with their so-called abilities to trim your armor, or that girl who wasn't actually a girl. RuneScape taught us a lot. But now enter Jegex's new game, RuneScape Dragonwilds. This is essentially a survival take, but in the RuneScape universe. You'll be met with familiar characters, even the quests themselves. You'll notice like free-to-play quests are present here as quests within RuneScape Dragonwilds, from Dragon Slayer to Doric's Quest, Restless Ghost. It's familiar, but also different. And that's one thing I want to say about RuneScape Dragonwilds right out the gate, is that first and foremost, this is a survival game. This is not an MMORPG. You could start a public server, but at the time, at least of this recording, you can only get up to 4 people per server. You can turn on things like friendly fire though, so yes, PvP does exist, but nothing on the scale of actual RuneScape, which is okay, because that's not what this game is trying to be. What it's really trying to be is a survival game. But for RuneScape players, it should feel very familiar. And that's the thing that really drew me in here, guys. You see, survival games have been popping up left and right, but the two that we played the most this past year being Nightingale and Enshrouded. Now, Nightingale's the one we're going to be returning to because they have had some updates, and I hope the game has improved. But to be quite frank, guys, I really wasn't looking for another survival game. As a matter of fact, if this game didn't have RuneScape in its title and wasn't presented directly from Jagex, I honestly probably would not have even downloaded it. But I'm glad I did, guys, because I really do like this game almost too much, almost to the point that I wish that it was more than what it is now. Now, granted, it will be. Currently in the early access portion of this game, I've got about 30 hours in the game, and I've done just about everything you could possibly do. I've done the main quests. I've got a couple side quests I could possibly finish out. I've explored the entire map. I've slayed bosses. I've killed abyssal demons. I've gotten an abyssal whip. And that's another crazy thing, is that this game has all of those things. You will feel right at home as a RuneScape player, from working your way up with leather gear to bronze to then iron. But then the game kind of jumps up like way beyond that. Like, I noticed that the progression there was kind of linear. It's like, all right, it took me about a day to get bronze, and then another day to get iron. And then suddenly it was like, bam, here's an abyssal demon. You can get it right now, including an abyssal whip. Now, it doesn't just drop an abyssal whip on the ground, but it does drop crafting materials that you can then use to create an abyssal whip. And let me just say, the abyssal whip, including its special attack, is so much better than its RuneScape variant. I wouldn't recommend it for PvP, but for PvE, it's pretty nice. But it did kind of confuse me how things just jump like that. And that's because most of the skills right now are all capped at 50, with 2 of the skills, that being magic and range, not even being able to be leveled as of this time. Now, these skills are being added, at least at some point, and after you do the main quest, you actually get XP that does apply to those skills. But currently, right now, all the skills are capped at 50. Now, in terms of like XP grind, this game is nowhere near as grinding as actual RuneScape. I do think that there is an exponential factor, as in there's probably going to be something similar to what's present in RuneScape, where levels 1 to 92 is 50%, and then 92 to 99 is the other 50%. But by no means is this thing on the same level of grind as RuneScape. RuneScape's literally like, hey, you want to get good at this game? You want to have 99s and everything? You want that completionist cape, that questing cape? Then it's time to abandon thy family. And let me just say, some of us, actually many of us, took that deal. Look, I'm not ashamed to say it. At one time, I was completely happy with my life, literally just playing RuneScape every day. And then Evolution of Combat happened, and then I had to rejoin society. Damn you, Jagex! RuneScape Dragonwilds, though, isn't like that. It doesn't require you to abandon your family, and just like most other survival games, it's all about just playing at your own pace, which I think is all right. I know it may be strange to some RuneScape players out there that are all about the XP grind, but this is a more peaceful take on the world that we grew up playing in. Now, let me just say, one thing I was pleasantly surprised about was just Jagex staying true to the source material. And I'm not just talking about from like a lore and narrative perspective, but just from like a materials perspective, from the making of hard leather to combining tin and copper together to make bronze, to the NPCs that are available to talk to, many of which are very familiar to RuneScape players. And the fact that the layout of quests right now are essentially your free-to-play quests, I can't help but want the rest of our quests here from RuneScape. I truly think that RuneScape, out of all MMORPGs, has some of the best quests. I can't help but wonder, what would this game be like if Jagex added things like Desert Treasure, Monkey Madness, even some classics in the free-to-play like Vampire Slayer or Witch's Potion. Now, what this game doesn't have, at least at the time of this recording, it doesn't have things like citadels, it doesn't have big cities, there's no Falador, no Sears Village. Also, the skills that are available are pretty limited. Not only do we have caps of 50 on most of our skills, but we also don't have nearly the amount of skills that we have inside of RuneScape present in RuneScape Dragonwilds. As Jagex mentioned, this is an early early access version of this game. So what this game is today is going to look very different a year from now. What I can say for my folks that are considering playing RuneScape Dragonwilds is that if you're a current RuneScape player or an old RuneScape player or just someone that just dabbled in this universe at some point in your life, I think you're going to really enjoy this take. And this is coming from someone that's not even that big of a fan of survival games. Now, there are some things that this game could definitely improve outside of just adding more content, which we're going to get into in just a moment. Some things that I think would be great quality of life improvements would be things like accessing all of your storage when crafting instead of having all items present in your inventory. Also, as someone who really likes Power World, I can't help but want to go out there and, I don't know, capture a goblin, bring him back, put him to work, make him pick some berries or something. That's a gameplay feature that doesn't necessarily need to be present, but it'd be cool. Now, one thing I really do like about this game, and this is present too in other survival games, are the raids. More specifically, your base being raided. Occasionally, you'll hear some horns going off and the goblins themselves will literally pour out and start attacking your base, which is kind of fun. You know, they can come in, they can tear everything up. For my macro farmers back outside of RuneScape, they used to stay up all night in High Alk. Look, man, XP is not worth it in this game. You stay up all night and leave your account on, you may wake up to your entire base completely raided and gone. So put those auto clickers away. And again, this game is not nearly as grindy as RuneScape, so it's not even necessary. Another thing that can pop up is the dragon itself. Dude, this asshole, Velgor, literally just flies over all day long, which is essentially Elvark 2.0, by the way. You can even see that they rearranged the letters there. But this guy literally will just run across your side of the map and drop poison. This poison does a lot of damage, and there's one thing that this game is pretty harsh about is poison damage. The status effects are rough, and if you step in that poison for too long, when you become poison, you die. It almost reminds me back in the day inside of RuneScape, you would get poisoned in the wild and you're running away and you almost make it back to the bank and the damage ticks just one more time, killing you before you can get to safety. That was back in the day when they used to call Dragon Dagger DDS. Oh, the good old days. But no lie, poison effect in this game is pretty potent, which takes me to the combat itself. The combat is pretty simple. You go in there, you got a sword, you do have the ability to parry. You also get a good sound cue and visual effect when you correctly parry. And there's benefits to that as well, including increased damage on the follow-up counterattacks. For the most part, it's just you swinging your weapon and managing your stamina. Now, one thing I do like about these weapons is that there are special attacks tied to them, even though it may just be a bronze weapon or an iron weapon. Again, we didn't have special attacks for weapons inside of RuneScape until you got to Dragon. And then from that threshold and up is when you started getting special attacks on those weapons. Now, the special attacks here aren't anything crazy. It could be something as simple as like going in for a slam attack and stunning the enemy. The Abyssal Whip by far has one of the coolest special attacks as it does the entire animation, then lights up the ground, which again is way better than its RuneScape version. I'm not sure what RuneScape Abyssal Whip looks like these days, but back in the day, we literally just do like this whip effect that would like deplete the energy and freeze the opponent just for a little bit. It wasn't anything crazy. Most people would just use a snare if they're trying to keep people locked and would prefer to just use their special energy meter on something that does a lot of damage to get the one-hit KO. But in this game, there really isn't a special meter. You can just hit your special over and over again, with the weapons themselves having different stats, different damage, and with different speeds, you also have different DPS. Abyssal Whip is by far one of the best damage dealers just because of its sheer speed and its ability to crit. Now, in terms of like range and magic, the only thing you can really do is find recipes for staffs and recipes for bows. I haven't found anything for crossbows yet, but that's about it. Yes, we do have a spell book and you do have a number of different spells, but most of these are not combat related spells, but definitely some throwbacks from like Bones to Peaches. But there isn't like this hierarchy of a spell book. There's no crazy ancients yet. I'm really curious though if Jagex does eventually add that. Now in the range department, nothing crazy there either. No crystal bows, no magic bows, no rune crossbows. But I'm sure right now Jagex's main focus is just to see how these two things fit into combat and this style of game. But that does take me to the spell book itself. One thing I really love about this game, and I wasn't expecting to make so much use of it, is our spell book. The ability to chop down trees with a single axe swing, the traversal spell. There's even like a shield spell that allows you to tank enemies. And you can literally see as the shield is breaking while you are tanking, thus allowing your teammates to freely do damage. I found myself making use of these spells left and right. So no, we don't necessarily have a mage book. We don't have ancients. there's still a ton of cool spells, and I'm really curious to see how they're going to tie this in once we do have the magic seal, and of course, what the level requirements are going to be for certain mage spells. Now, like most typical survival games, you can find yourself just getting lost in the process of gathering materials from different ore, to chopping down trees, to then converting that into materials, to then making your base. I get the appeal. I found myself really enjoying the process of crafting in this game, of making runes, of dabbling with my first set of potions, and pushing further into the map. Now, the map is covered by like fog of war, and as you push further and further, it reveals more of itself, with some being incredibly hostile. There's like one area that you can't even go inside of unless you have an anti-poison potion, which then pushes you to find the recipe to make that potion. And something that Jacobs has done a really good job on is actually having this recipe tab. And as you discover items in the world, you unlock different recipes, and then you can discover how to create that particular item, which is good because it removes that level of friction that would normally overcomplicate the game. Now, in terms of like different enemy types, it's definitely not on the level of like RuneScape, but it does vary region to region, with some doing a tremendous amount of damage. I talk about poison damage being the thing that will wreck you. When you get further north, there's like druids and stuff that can apply poison, and man, that can eat you up. If you do not have anti-poison potions, if you get tagged even once, you will die out. Now, luckily, if you do die, you have the ability to create lodestones. So wherever you just died, if you had a lodestone nearby, you can teleport right back up to it if you have enough law runes. And what I really like about this system too is that you can actually break down your lodestone. It refunds 100% of the materials. You can then carry that to whatever area you're trying to push in, and then drop your lodestone again, thus giving you and your squad a TP points. Other areas of the map that you can explore are these like abandoned citadels, but they're not like massively huge. Most of them are run down and are inhabited by enemies. Then you also have these vaults, which are essentially like the dungeons present inside of RuneScape Dragonwilds. You go inside of them, you'll notice that the boss door is always next to the entrance, but of course it's locked. You progress through the entire dungeon, there'll be traps, there'll be enemies, and then you'll make your way right back to where you started. And after doing so, there'll normally be a lever that you can pull, which will open the boss's room, allowing you to push in, finish the boss, and obtain the loot, as well as vault cores, which is a primary resource in this game when it comes to lodestones, and also when it comes to higher end loot. Now, gear does degrade in this game, which means there is a repair feature that allows you to repair your gear. And the problem is that some of your gear requires somewhat rare materials in order to repair. For instance, my Abyssal Whip requires another Abyssal Spine to get it back to full 100%. Now, I could go find myself an Abyssal Demon, which has various spawn locations, or I can actually use a spell which allows me to repair anything that's on the ground in front of me. So I can literally just throw my weapon down, repair my Abyssal Whip. It doesn't fully repair it, but it repairs it enough, which is pretty nice. Many people are gonna say, hey, Cross, this game looks so much like New World. From the animations to gathering to literally your characters. Why should I play this when I could just play New World? And all I can say to that is, well, first, New World is an MMORPG. This is very much a survival game. Secondly, it's RuneScape. So obviously, if you're a fan of RuneScape and you're familiar with this world, you'll be a fan of this. And this is coming from somebody that played hundreds of hours of New World. I enjoy New World. It had its moment for me. And who knows, maybe we join back up at some point. Oh, Bayou Boys will live again. Now let's talk about the path forward for RuneScape Dragonwilds. Because yes, I did enjoy my time with this game. I want more. I need more. And I know they have more coming. The question is this going to be enough? In development right now, they said on the roadmap, they have Fellow Hollow and the Soul Eater Amaru. It states that it's a region suspended between life and death, ruled over by the Soul Eater Dragon Amaru. So obviously we're going to get a new region. And then of course, the 3 skills we're going to be getting is magic, range, and farming. And if you complete it, the Dragon Slayer quest, you're already sitting at 20 magic and range. Farming's going to be really nice though, especially for Herbalore. It's kind of a weird thing because you do see things like Snapdragon in the wild. You'll have familiar herbs just kind of laying around, but I can't help but scratch my head and say, hey, are we ever going to get Raynars? Are we going to get Prayer in this game? Am I going to need Prayer Potion? Are we going to get Ceradom and Bruise? Are you guys going to go crazy and give us overloads? They do state they're going to give us new quests, lore, gear, and of course music, as well as a new enemy type. I think the 2 things that are really going to carry this game though, one being hardcore mode and the other one being creative mode. Those were also thrown in the roadmap. Creative mode is kind of wild because yes, folks are going to get in there and literally create RuneScape. Mark my words, guys. You're going to see Lumbridge. You're going to see Falador. You're going to see Ardugny. And yes, it ain't Ardune. It's Ardugny. I'm probably going to play more hardcore mode though, simply because I want to see how that plays out. This is not an easy game. Like if you think you can play this game without dying once, think again, man. There is so much in this game that will wreck you. And I'm really curious to see how they actually branch that out. What's going to be the incentive for that? Is it just for the challenge, or is there actually going to be something there that represents that, hey, I'm a hardcore player? One thing that's really interesting though, at least at the time of this recording, is that if you have your own world, your own server, and you farm up a bunch of materials, and you get a bunch of good weapons and a bunch of good gear, you can then take that gear and join your friend's world. That was pretty wild. I was expecting like you would just kind of just join up on your friend, you would have nothing, they would then need to give you stuff. No, you could take everything. So very little barriers there to jump in with your friends. Granted, hardcore mode could be different. Maybe that's the thing that's gonna be one of the more notable features, is that there will be barriers to items that you can carry over. But what I will say, guys, is that there is more content on the way, but I can't help but be somewhat demanding. I want it now. I need it now. I could play this game probably nonstop. And like this week, I was expecting to be like, all right, for the next 500 hours, we are gonna just tackle the piss out of this game. And all I'm asking is for Jagex to give me that reason. Granted, at the same time, you could just stop playing this game, go play old school RuneScape, wait for some updates to hit this one, and then come back. But what I will say, guys, is that I am loving this take on the survival genre. And I think the biggest struggle for other survival games is that they just don't have the ability to scale. They don't have the content to keep adding into the game. Whereas RuneScape has a tremendous amount of material they can add. The amount of stuff that they can just literally drag into this game. Think about all the enemy factions. Think about if they add elves or go crazy and add God Wars or Barrows. I'm not really sure if they're gonna do all that, and it really just comes down to how successful has Dragonwilds been for them thus far. I would assume pretty successful. As the moment we saw the stream, we literally stopped everything we were doing and joined up in this game and played all day Tuesday and all day Wednesday. But I won't lie, fellas, I'm hungry. I want more. I need more. Currently right now though, guys, I think you can roughly get 30 to 50 hours out of this game if you're looking to spec out a good base, have everything that you could possibly need, max out your skills to then be prepared for the next drop of content. I think performance-wise, the game ran well. I think the lighting's pretty good, even if it does get a little dark at times. But that, of course, just pushes you into using your torch or your magic abilities that can light your way. Where the game is right now is really at a solid foundation. It just needs more content, and a lot more. Part of me wishes the world map was bigger, and I know they are adding more areas, but I mean a lot bigger. The ability to actually pick up a lodestone and drop it anywhere is fantastic, and I don't want them to take that away to make the world feel larger. You see certain MMORPGs that are like, no, you can't have mounts, or you get limited teleportation, and that's their way of making the world feel bigger, and I'm glad that Jagex didn't do that here. However, I would love to see this map like 10 times this size. Like if you look at RuneScape and you see the free-to-play portion of the map, and then you see the member portion, I would love it if we got that level of content. I want my Throne of Miscellanea, man. And that's another thing. Jagex is really trying to give us like fresh takes on a lot of this and give it some levels that are familiar, but definitely more based inside of Dragonwilds. But I won't lie, guys, I wouldn't mind just straight up locations that are pulled directly from RuneScape. I guess what I'm really trying to say is that I want RuneScape 4. This comes from somebody that doesn't even play RuneScape 3, but I can't help but wonder, would it ever be possible to have all of RuneScape, but in this style, this engine? Obviously, there's limitations to this, but man, if we can get up to like 100 players, maybe 200, 300, and the world be as large as actual RuneScapes, for the sake of my family, that probably shouldn't happen. Well, guys, those are our thoughts on RuneScape Dragonwilds. This game is going to continue to grow over time. I'm looking forward to what Jagex brings to us, and it'll definitely be a game we return to. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.